Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Splash Page. I'm Sean, and as always, I'm joined by Andrew. How's it going, Andrew?
Hey, Sean, how's it been?
It's been going, man. Happy New Year.
What are we doing here? I don't even remember anymore.
Right. Well, we have a YouTube channel where we talk about TV shows.
I forgot.
And even though we haven't done it in a while, we're jumping right back in because we heard some really exciting news around Invincible Season 2.
Yes.
The fact that we're finally going to get an announcement this month to hopefully tell us when the episodes will air.
That would be the best case announcement. If they were planning an announcement all this time to tell us there's no Season 2, that'd be rough.
Yeah, or like an announcement that though, like there's Invincible NFTs coming out.
Yeah.
That would be a major buzzkill.
Yeah.
But this channel started as an Invincible review channel, and we got 8 great episodes and a ton of content, and then basically, dried up that well and have been kind of floundering for the last year and a half. But happy everyone stayed with us, and if you're watching this, what our attempt to do is, with this knowledge of an announcement coming, we wanted to recap Season 1 in a quick but kind of really dense way. So what we're going to do is break down each episode and then probably post them a couple days within each other. So with that said, you want to jump in episode 1, Andrew?
Sounds beautiful. Our show starts in Washington, D.C. as 2 security guards talk about their upcoming training for superheroes. This sets up a world in which superheroes are known about by everyone and are an important part of society. The guards joke about how worthless the training is because, if a supervillain wants to kill you, they're gonna be able to do that pretty easily.
One of the security guards is voiced by John Hamm. John Hamm's character's name is Steve, and he talks about how he and his stepson have been through a lot over the past few years, but they're finally starting to connect.
And then, boom! Loud noises, crows squawking, the ground explodes, and 2 giant identical blue men arise from the rubble. These are the Mauler twins. They argue with each other over which one of them is a clone, as bullets pelt off of them like a light rain. They fire back with their massive guns, their goal to break into the White House and kill the president.
Steve shoots one of the Mauler twins in the eye, which is basically the only spot that could hurt them. And just when the Mauler twin is going to kill Steve in retribution, here comes the cavalry. Now this is a superhero team. Think the Justice League, only called the Guardians of the Globe. From left to right, we have Aquarius, Martian Man, War Woman, the Immortal, Darkwing, Red Rush, and Green Ghost.
It's clear that the Guardians have been a team for a while now as we watch them fight together. They're able to use all their powers in a way that not only saves all of the innocent bystanders around the White House, but also manages to keep the Mauler twins at bay. For a deeper analysis of this fight, we did a video a while back that we'll link in this video and down in the description.
Red Rush and Green Ghost are both helping to move innocent bystanders as the others work to keep the Mauler twins busy. Red Rush, with his super speed, is able to grab onto people and bring them far from the fight. The issue is, he runs so fast, he makes everyone feel motion sickness. This is not the last time puking is going to come up on this show.
It's not until Darkwing is trapped underneath a tank with an innocent bystander, ready to be crushed, that we meet Omni-Man, who I would say looks a lot like Superman, except Omni-Man has an absolute gorgeous mustache. He lifts the tank off of Darkwing, and Darkwing leaves without thanking him.
Once Omni-Man joins the fold, the Mauler twins stand no chance and are apprehended.
We then cut to Mark, who is the protagonist of this story, and his mother Debbie, who is his mother. We see that they're talking about the battle that happened at the White House, and Debbie makes the joke that they rebuild that thing twice a year. Omni-Man comes home, and we learn that Omni-Man is Mark's father.
Omni-Man, whose real name is Nolan to the rest of the world, says to Mark that once his powers kick in, he can do whatever he wants. So we now know Mark does not have any superpowers, but is expecting to get them once he gets of a certain age.
We then jump to Mark's high school, aptly named Reginald VelJohnson High School, after the actor Reginald VelJohnson, who played Carl Winslow in Family Matters, and surprisingly, the principal of Reginald VelJohnson High School. We then meet Mark's best friend, William, while down the hallway, a girl named Amber gets in a fight with a bully named Todd. She's doing a decent job standing up for herself, but Mark goes in to step in and help defend her anyway. He gets himself punched in the face a few times by Todd. In case the scene between Mark and his father didn't make it clear, it's now absolutely obvious that Mark does not have any superpowers.
Mark then goes to his after school job at Burger Mart. As he's dragging out the garbage at the end of this shift, he goes to toss the garbage bags into the dumpster and absolutely launches one into outer space. Now it's very clear that he has his powers.
At dinner, Nolan comes home from fighting a dragon that was going to destroy Hong Kong, and Mark tells him he thinks he's finally gotten his superpowers, probably because of that garbage bag he flung into outer space. Nolan just kind of stares at him and hesitates. It seems like something's off, but Nolan agrees and starts to offer training Mark in his superpowers.
We then have a flashback of Nolan sitting on the roof with a much younger Mark. Nolan is telling Mark the history of who he is. He talks about how his home planet is the planet of Viltrum, and his people are called Viltrumites.
These Viltrumites were then sent throughout the galaxy to help people, and Nolan was sent to Earth to help humanity and met Mark's mother Debbie, and then they had Mark, who also gives Mark the puberty speech about how things are going to start changing in his body. But with Mark, there's the added layer of getting superpowers. We then come back to Mark in real time laying in bed, remembering that conversation. Mark heads out his window and decides to try to fly.
Mark is obviously new to this, but he's able to fly a bit. He also encounters an airplane and a few other silly things happen to him.
When we get to our first training montage, Omni-Man teaches Mark how to fly. He then tries to teach Mark how to punch and how to fight. Mark doesn't even come close to making contact. Suddenly, Omni-Man punches him incredibly hard right in the chest. Omni-Man then drops the lesson on him that if he really wants to do what his dad does, he's going to have to be prepared for anything, as no one's going to hold their punches for him. That can't be foreshadowing, right?
After training, Nolan mentions to Debbie that he wasn't prepared for Mark to get his powers because they showed up so late, which seems weird considering we know that the expectation was Mark was going to get his powers. He then says it might have been better off if Mark never got powers at all.
Back at school, the bully, Todd, who just the other day was able to easily beat up Mark for trying to defend Amber, attacks Mark again. And Mark just decides to let him punch him as much as he wants, which obviously doesn't hurt Mark now that he's a superhero.
After school, Mark dresses up like every freshman superhero and says, "Screw it. I'm gonna go be a superhero now." There's a bank robbery, and two guys in suits are firing guns, while there's a third guy that appears to be made out of stone. That guy's name is Titan.
Turns out Mark is much stronger than Titan, but doesn't have any training or real knowledge of what to do. He manages to knock out Titan, but before he can do anything else, Omni-Man shows up and casually mentions how ridiculous his son looks. They fly off to a nearby rooftop to discuss.
In the conversation on the rooftop, Mark asks his dad to hit him again. It's a moment where Mark is trying to prove himself by being able to take a hit, because the first time he was scared. But now he's suddenly ready. All he's ever wanted is to be exactly like his dad.
But instead of beating up his son, Omni-Man takes Mark to a superhero costume tailor named Art Rosenbaum, who happens to be voiced by Mark Hamill.
Art says he'll make Mark his super suit, something iconic but simple. Art asks Mark if he has a name yet, and Mark says no. He says, "Let me know when you come up with a name, cause that might help with the suit," which makes a ton of sense.
Later that night, Mark is flying around to practice his landings, aka slamming into the ground without any control. He then has a conversation with his mother. They have a sweet moment, and his mother says that he doesn't have to live up to the expectations or the example that his father set. He just has to be the best Mark.
While Mark and his dad are training the next day, Nolan mentions that usually kids at his age get in trouble because they think they're invincible, but they're not. The difference is that Mark is actually invincible. Suddenly, Mark knows what his new superhero name will be. He goes to Art's shop and gets a new suit.
As Mark is flying around in his sweet new suit, he sees a big explosion through a building in the distance and goes to see that Kill Cannon is attacking police officers. Mark is easily able to manhandle Kill Cannon, but Kill Cannon asks who he is, and before Mark can say his name, it cuts to the title card that says Invincible, which happens every episode when they try to say his name. We are 37 minutes into episode 1, and we've got our first title card.
We then get a montage of our heroes from the Guardians of the Globe. Remember, the show opened with the Guardians of the Globe battling the Mauler twins? So surely we'll learn more about these great characters now too.
Well, first we see Red Rush talking with his wife, Olga. His watch starts beeping, which means that he needs to go to Guardians headquarters.
Next, we cut to see Biplane flying above Denver. He's going to blow it up when the Immortal swings by, grabs him, and throws him into space. He also gets a call from Guardians headquarters and heads off.
And then we find Aquarius down in Atlantis sitting on his throne, really kind of bored. It almost looks like he's going to fall asleep when he gets the call to action and heads to Guardians headquarters as well.
We are now in a fancy high-rise office building, and War Woman is talking to her second-in-command, Connie. But then she gets her call to action. She turns into War Woman right in front of Connie and flies off.
We then cut to Martian Man, who is training, I guess, in an abandoned house with a homeless kid. The homeless girl is named Nikki, and she wants to go with Martian Man when he gets the call to go to Guardians headquarters, but he can't possibly bring her. It's way too dangerous, and he flies off.
We're now at a photography studio where a model is getting her picture taken. But the photographer's watch starts to beep. She swallows a green amulet and turns into Green Ghost and flies to Guardians headquarters.
Finally, we have Darkwing. There are two men breaking into the building via the roof. When Darkwing appears, he manages to subdue them by magnetizing them with their hands above their heads against a water tower. He gets the call to go to Guardians headquarters and he jumps into his jet and flies off. He is the last to arrive when they get to Guardians HQ.
When he gets there, it seems they're all confused as to who called them and why they're there. But it's got to be explainable, right? These guys are the world's most powerful heroes, but they can all tell something is strange.
And out of nowhere, Red Rush starts to sprint at the Immortal, and we see Omni-Man was about to punch Immortal in the head. What the hell is going on here? The Guardians of the Globe are just as confused as we are, and they start to fight Omni-Man.
It's got a very Justice League vs. Superman feel as the Guardians put up a fight, but because Omni-Man is so overpowered and actually prepared for this, there is nothing they can really do to hurt him. We do a very in-depth breakdown on this fight in the same video we discussed earlier, so please watch that. But what you have to realize is here is really no fight. This is Omni-Man coming to take pieces off the board. Omni-Man kills all 7 members of the Guardians of the Globe, but he is also hurt pretty bad and passes out.
Episode 1 ends with killing off 7 people we thought would be our main characters. This setup and this rug pull is just an absolutely amazing way to set off the rest of our story.
What comes next? You'll have to wait for tomorrow's video to see the breakdown of Season 1, Episode 2. Andrew, this episode was a phenomenal start to what has proved to be a phenomenal show. Any last words?
Can't wait for Episode 2.
All right, let's go. Please click on the links over here. We'll have the video for Episode 2 somewhere on the screen, as well as the video to the Omni-Man versus the Guardians of the Globe fight. So click on one of these bad boys. Otherwise, I'm Sean, that's Andrew. Take it easy, YouTube.
Later.